May 24, 8 o'clock, 8:19. We're going into the City Hall of Stockholm. I guess that's the Golden Hall. Thank you. Ah, 呢三個皇冠我尋日咪見到咯。I say, we're on the other side. City Hall, Stadshuset. So.
Now, something I want to tell you before we go in. The architect, his name was Ragnar Östberg. He was a Swede. He traveled around the world. He loved Italy and their architectural buildings, but he wanted to capsule the Swedish history in one building. Sometimes people think this is a very old building. It's only 100 years old. It had its 100th anniversary last year. But he wanted us to think it's old, so he used some visual effects, which I'll point out. And there was one more thing he didn't like: symmetry. Every time he could break a pattern, he did. Even here, all the colors are round. But look, one before the end is octagonal. Can you see it at the far end? Actually, I'm so happy to have this. Helps the people to know what to put. When it comes to the Nobel dinner, because on Saturdays, couples coming out, but during the Nobel dinner, which we talk more about, the laureates and the royal family are walking through these doors, but they're also, the door is a bit to the right and not in the center. Just another small detail. If you look at the wall, you know, a brick has two sides. This is visible. You have the stretcher, the wide side of the brick, and the header, the short end. And if you look at the pattern, you see that there are every row, two bricks on the stretcher, one on the header, two on the stretcher, one on the header. This bond is called the Flemish bond, and that's how we used to build when we were Catholics. 500 years ago, we went through a Reformation. From being Catholics today, more than 85% are Lutheran Protestants. So when we became Lutherans, you're not allowed to put the bricks in the Catholic way. So if you look on the other side of the building, and you can see that far, you'll see that one row is on the headers, the short end, and one row is on the stretchers. That's one of the examples of how to combine the history of both Sweden and Stockholm in one building. And here we have this piazza. There's an Italian thing when you think about it.
Yeah.
Now, what will happen now? In a few minutes, they're going to open the City Hall. That's why we're here so early, because you'll see, when we leave, it's going to be packed. Okay? So I hope it's okay that we wake up that early. And when we go inside, I have to go with Veronica first to get the stickers. I plan to start the guided tour right away, but I know you had breakfast. And the moment we'll go in, there will be facilities on the right. Do you see there's a star between the second and the third window? And they tell the guests, if you focus with your chin, you have a very gracious walk down the stairs, even the laureates. But you're going to walk down these stairs, but I prefer that you look where you're stepping. But just so you know, the trained ones can actually, and by the way, the steps that we're going to climb, and if somebody doesn't want to climb step, it's not a problem. They have staff here. They will take you with the lift to the next floor. So if you don't like steps, it's not an issue. But you should think that these steps are very low and very deep. Because they know women, in many cases, have crinolines. They can't see their feet. They have to fit. You can't be the queen and go, you know. So the architect took his wife. He made 4 models, and he told her walk with high skirts, long skirts, high heels, up and down. And she picked up the stairs she liked the most. They got married right after, but that wasn't the main reason. There were other issues. He was a very proud architect. He was a bit full of himself, if I may say. For example, if you turn around, there's a bust of a man at the upper left corner. That's the architect.
Left corner.
I think it's unique that an architect puts a bust of himself.
So that's the architect.
They're normally behind the curtains, and if it would have been the only spot, okay. Almost every room, after compromising on a ceiling, he's just shoved it up there. So the sound here is very bad. If I switch this off, listen. Oh! Did you hear a bit the echo? I don't want to scream too loud because the ambulance might come, but the sound is so bad. They have 4 concerts a year, and they're for free because people come here to say they've been in the Blue Hole, but musically, I don't know how much they enjoy their time. Are we all okay with steps, dear guests? Really? So let's have a nice. Are we okay? Don't be perfect. So now we're taking our time. We're walking up the stairs, and we are turning into a room called the Golden Hall. And by the way, after we turn right, you will see the wall in front of you, where I'm pointing, has a section where the bricks are darker than the others. That's a trick he used. He wanted us to think it's an old building. He left a small part dirty so we can see how it looked back in the medieval times. But these are all visual effects. I made the mistake to ask a group how old they think the building is. And one of the guests said, okay, but you have to tell us if it's before Christ or after. So I'm not doing it again. It's 100 years old.
So now this is the famous Golden Hall. So you prepare plates with a number, and it's like a very simple jigsaw. You just have, by the way, do you hear another guide, or is it the same channel? Is it working? It's okay. So what happened is, when you look at this wall, the finish is very bad. Because when you put mosaics, you're not supposed to see when one plate ends and the next one begins. The seam should not be visible. And here, if you look right across, you can easily see the line. Yep. And that shows that they were really rushed into finishing this building because it had to be inaugurated on a certain day, which is the 23rd of June, 1923, the 400th anniversary to a king called Gustav Vasa. Vasa ship, Vasa, the area where a hotel is. I always like to point out a mistake they made. If you look further up, you see a man on a horse. Right on the building in the center. Oh, yeah.
No, that's not just any man. That's the Saint of Stockholm, Saint Eric. He was supposed to get probably the most prominent spot down in the history of this nation. But when they started to put the plates, they might miscalculated this ramp at the bottom, and when they reached up there, now, luckily he was beheaded back in the early or 10th century, so we can say it was meant to be. But the nice thing, the architect, he knew people will have issues with this room. So he puts himself, if you look to the right, you see a man standing like a medal around his neck in front of a group of people. That's him explaining to the community of Stockholm, or the important figures, what he did and why. And he, as a joke, predicted that they won't be convinced. Why? Because the same wall, if you look to the left, right under those four windows, there's a man holding his hand up. That's the same guy, but this time he's explaining to the judge. And there's a policeman next to him with a blue uniform about to take him to jail. So he could use his own sense of humor to put in the walls. Now, could you help me with something? I'm putting you on the spot here. I want to show you how easy it is to drag these doors. Can you just do it a little bit? They weigh 1 ton. See how strong it is? 1 ton. It's copper on one side and walnut on the other. And the reason it works so smoothly is because of this invention. A Swedish invention, ball bearings. There's a company called SKF. And remember I told you we didn't take part in the war, but maybe we are the reason the war kept on going for another 3 months? The Americans bombed a factory in Berlin that produced ball bearings. But what did the Germans do? They started to trade with us. We had everything standing. We sold it to them. But when we saw where the winds are turning at the end of the Second World War, no more ball bearings for you. And we started to sell it to the Allies because we needed it for the Spitfires, for the cannons to rotate. This is a small one. I use it at home. I put a plate and then I rotate the cheese. That's how I use it. But it's an amazing thing. So for being a small country, we always had to focus on export. That's why I think we have some things that might be considered quality. I don't know, IKEA is, we can discuss that. But there's another company that was established the same year in 1947 called H&M. It's a clothing brand that you'll see in town as well. And we'll talk about Baldus. So that's why there's so many things happening here.
Is any James Bond movie?
No, I don't know about James Bond. But Daniel Craig, he played in a Swedish, not a Swedish movie, but there's a Swedish author called Stieg Larsson.
I'm trying to walk without looking it down.
Okay, so let me hold your camera and I'll keep it when they take you with the ambulance.
So I'm supposed to look straight, right?
No, you see it's over there. So if you look at the star, and by the way, if you
What
look
star?
Down, notice that, you see that star?
Oh.
You'll definitely fall during the Nobel dinner. And notice that even the marble is from Sweden. All the materials are Swedish material, and look how they bond the pieces together. It's not a straight line, it's handmade curve like a jigsaw. So everything here was handmade.
Oh man, hire a contractor. This will take years and a lot of money.
Oh yes, and especially when there's a war going on. That's why it became more expensive, because no import, no export.
Maybe particularly because of the war going on, they need employment.
Tack för hjälpen.
So at the end of the tour, you put your different city hall little sticker. No re-entrance.
Re-entrance.
No re-entrance. Exit. 差不多了嘛。Okay, the most famous plaque, the souvenir shop. Wedding cake soap bubble. Okay, you gotta start raining in Stockholm now. 咁先至似樣 now more like it. Rainy and gloomy Stockholm now. Okay, 9:20. Back to the bus.